So I guess in high school, I wanted to be a journalist, but I didn't know what steps to take. Like, and again, like the magazines or publications that were reputable when I was growing up, they kind of stopped being reputable, and it kind of gave way to the blog era. And then, there were some decent writers or whatever, but ultimately it just became a place to click the link to hear the song, and it was less about writing about the music. So I was like, damn, like how do I fit in to this new space? Or now there's an avenue for me to fit in because I don't have to subscribe to like any pre-made trajectory about how to get into the game. It was just like, yo, you got the internet, you got SoundCloud, you got a place to record. And so before Tea and Converse became a podcast, it was a web series where I would go to different tea houses in New York and like interview people. But there was so many different moving parts and like mistakes.
Oh shit.
I love it. Big red jacket.
We got great, man.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. I was just telling MastaMind that it was fun to put together, man. So I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna read it. Yo, Ty, this is my point.
I got tired of like accounting for those different variables, and I was just like, yo, what's a more compact way to do this? And then the podcast shit was happening. Combat Jack was buzzing, Juan Epstein was buzzing. So I was just like, but they all deal with like legacy artists, which is cool. Like I always want to know more in detail, in-depth things about like the pioneers, but I felt like there was something special happening with a lot of artists, and they just weren't getting covered, whether it be because they didn't get a cosign or because they wasn't signed or because they don't have the following on the social media, but they were making the best music. And I was like, nah, I gotta get in on that because nobody else is doing it. Yeah. And I was scared shitless, man. Like I didn't have an in the industry. Like I'm not of the industry or anything like that. I don't really know anybody. So when I first was like, yo, I'm gonna do this, I reached out to two people I had in my phone book. It was my man Sal Dolly. He's a producer from Cincinnati. And then this videographer, his name is Preston Morales. And he would just like shoot different videos and shit. And so those are the two people I had in my phone. And I was like, yo, I'm thinking about doing this podcast. Can y'all pull up? And they was with it. The internet was still popping around that time, right? But I feel like there's been more strides in the direct-to-consumer format. You know what I mean? Like people doing projects where you can only get it through the DMs, or you can only get it if you PayPal me or Venmo me or Cash at me. And I think that creates a relationship with the artists and their fan base or their supporters that people weren't really capitalizing off of. Like, I feel like in 2008, the relationship was like Twitter, you know what I mean? Like if you got a follow back or you were in the DMs or whatever, and that's cool. But I feel like people later on, 2012, 2015, it started to become a more personal, transaction-based relationship where it was like, yo, you could actually like just get this project directly from me, like instead of streaming it. So it's been growth there. And then just the merch ideas have just been blossoming. You know what I mean? More than just shirts. The vinyl thing has exploded. I mean, vinyl was important back then too, but I feel like now you don't even have to have a certain stature or whatever to make the vinyl work. And those European labels that press up the vinyls, they grow. Every couple years I'm hearing about a new label. So like the most recent one that I've been hearing about is Copenhagen Crates.
Oh yeah.
And you know what I mean? Because before Copenhagen, like everybody wanted a dope media vinyl release. So yeah, just like more expansion in that realm too, where it's just like, yo, you don't have to sell the most records. We can do like a 50 unit or 100 unit pressing of a project. So it made it more accessible to artists who are just as good, but maybe just like people don't know about as much. So I guess around like 2015, it was like an underground rapper like starter pack. Like you would get a Husk Kingpin feature, you would get a collab with Big Ghost, and then you would get a Dope Media vinyl release. I feel like those were like the tiers that determined how hot you were, how buzzing you were, or like maybe a gauge for success in this realm or whatever. But like that doesn't matter as much now. Like now it's just like, yo, if you got it, you got it. Like there's no path that you need to follow. I mean, and it should have been that way because we have the tools, but now I think it's more open than it's ever been. Well, I mean, I think a lot of cats have the music part figured out. Like that's the easy part, right? But I think my personal answer is infrastructure. Like I want to see someone take the independent ethos or label motto and build upon it, where it's like they have a staff and they're feeding other people that way, instead of it just being like, yo, I have this label and I'm just putting out my project. Like I want them to grow it where it can be like a stone's throw, or it can be like what was the joint? Raucous. Like I want Uncle John to be able to build Sharp Records that way, and like for him and Raheem Supreme to have like a proper home that where they don't have to rely on anybody else, and then they put other people on. Like I feel like we still haven't fully seen that yet. You know what I mean? Like West is moving with like Shady and Rock Nation or whatever, but I feel like there's still a level beneath that where like somebody like Unc could turn Sharp Records into like an underground behemoth, so to speak. But yeah, I think infrastructure is important. Somebody handling the customer service issues, a proper A&R person, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see someone build an actual viable label where they could like actually sign people. And not everybody needs to have their own record label. Like they could branch off in a different way, you know what I mean?
My Comic Speaks Again joint drop. You forgot that you had that extra.
Nah. I mean, so that joint, I mean, that was almost like a collaborative effort with like me and Mock. Like he was like, yo, I'ma come out there. And I was like, oh.
What's in New York?
Yeah. And so, because we recorded that in April of 2019, and he was like, yo, I want to make it special. Like, you know, because he has this reputation that he's not he's not like a friendly person or available person or affable person. But then he was like, yo, I'm just gonna pull up and we're gonna make this shit special. And so we did that. Like I reached out to the people who I see on Twitter and Instagram that appreciate his music. So I was like, yo, I want those people to be there. And so, you know, I just reached out to whoever I see like talking shit about the music online, and I was like, yo, come through, we're gonna do this thing. And I wasn't billing it as if he was gonna be there just in case anything happened or whatever. He's not a pump faker, he's always been a man of his word, but you know, people get sick or travel plans change, and he's an ascending artist, you know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe a deal might come up or whatever, so I didn't want to tell anybody he was gonna pull up. And then when he did, it was almost as if people were scared to talk to him. I was like, yo, he's here for you. Like, he ain't pull up for me. Like, you know what I mean? We see each other a couple times a year or whatever, but, you know, he was there for, you know, people to sign shit for them if they wanted to bring their records or whatever the case may be. And ultimately, people, like, warmed up to the idea of him being in the building, but it was just dope. And then people, you know, he had the fruit of Islam as his security, so people was like, yo, what? People were confused about that, but you know what I mean, it was just an ill time, you know what I mean? Preservation was there, Droog was there, so it was just Fahim was there. And at the time I wasn't too hip to Left Lane Didon and Jay Nice, but they were there. Stack Skrilla was there. So yeah, it was just beautiful, man. And you know, to see how his music resonates with people, it was just amazing to see in the flesh.
No, all good, man. Nice to meet you, man. All good.
MastaMind, pleasure, brother.
Yeah, as well.
Dope, man.
Appreciate y'all. Be safe, man. All right, man. Take care, y'all.
Yeah, I got you. Chocolate.
I just like this. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah, so Tyron de Harlem, Tryon Perryman, Cash Magazine, the September 2020 issue. And it's not really a magazine, man. I'm building this more of like a magazine concept just because of all of the different moving components. And it's not like a traditional magazine in that sense. So it's a little bit different than a straightforward magazine. But this is the inaugural issue, September 2020. It can be found at, and this is lengthy, but cashconcept.bigcartel.com. So that's a mouthful, but cashconcept.bigcartel.com. And then concept doesn't have the vowels. So it's CACHECNCPT.bigcartel.com. And it's a limited run, 50. We're gonna be doing semi-monthly until we get on the monthly wave, maybe at some point next year. And then the same thing with Instagram and Twitter. Cash Concept is the handle. But yeah, Tyron the Harlem. And on the back was the profile piece. But then, when you pull out your phone, you got the QR codes. I don't know how close we can get. Pop that up. Takes you to the Renaissance, which is this. So I just wanted it to be an ecosystem, you know what I mean? Like, I just think that's important to just get as many people involved as possible, and just kind of be less reliant on, I guess, the mainstream.